everybody, welcome to a new episode of Sipping with Jeremy, and today we're going to be trying a limited release from Michter's Distillery. I recently did a video for Michter's Distillery where I went through all their 4 core SKUs, so their sour mash, their American whiskey, their bourbon, and their rye. I'll make sure to add that link below so y'all can check that out and get more of the background on the distillery of Michter's. And now we're going to be talking about a limited release from them. So for the last 10 years, Michter's has sent out a toasted barrel finish whiskey around this time of year in the fall. And they are, to my knowledge, the first distillery to do this. 2014 was their first release. I saw some more come out after that, but they were the first ones to do this toasted barrel idea. And some of you might be asking what exactly that means, and it's a pretty easy process to understand. When making whiskey, you're going to add the liquid to a barrel that has been charred. Now, there's 4 levels of char. It goes from 1 to 4, 1 being the lightest, 4 being the heaviest. And the point of charring the barrel is to pull out some of the flavors from the oak that the liquid is going to intake while it's aging in the barrel. Now, what Michter started doing 10 years ago is they took their finished whiskey and then put it in lightly toasted barrels. So not barrels that are, to a char level of 1, something lighter than that. So Michter's takes their mature whiskey that's fully aged, takes some toasted barrels and finishes their whiskey in that. Meaning it's laid down for less than a year. I'd say probably like 5 to 6 months at the longest. And it's just, since it is a finishing, it's not a whole lot of time in barrel. And yeah, the point is just to add a little extra sweetness, a little extra richness to your whiskey. Since Michter's has been doing this for 10 years, they do have a couple different options when it comes to their toasted barrels. So I have seen them do it with their rye. I've seen them do it with their sour mash. This is like I'd say 3rd or 4th time I've seen them do it with bourbon. So that is the cool part with Michter. Since they have so many core whiskeys that they can work with, you have a lot of different options for what you want to do with the toasted barrel finish. So every year Michter's releases a different version. So it's not always going to be bourbon, but there's options for rye drinkers out there, the sour mash drinkers. You can get, a toasted barrel finish around this time of year. Now let's go ahead and give the toasted barrel finish bourbon a try. So it starts off pretty oaky up front, a lot of oak spice characteristics, which again, with toasted barreling, finishing, you're going to get a little bit spice there too. That kind of leads off into some more roasted coffee flavors, a little bit of like mocha as well. Then you get this really nice fruit component, kind of like a blend of cherries and berries, some like higher acidity berries, like a raspberry kind of idea, and like dark cherries kind of compote blended together and just brings this nice little fruitiness to it in the mid palate. And then you get a little bit more of that oak spice on the back end, gets a little bit more tea-like on the finish. So it just kind of really develops in flavor. One of those starts, in that spice world and it finishes in that spice world, but has a nice round mid-palate, mid-body. And it's a fun contrast to the standard bourbon. In that video that I mentioned before, I will make sure to put the link in below where I reviewed the core Michter items. Their bourbon had a lot more of those traditional bourbon flavors to it. To me, it's one of those flagship bourbons where someone's trying to get into the category. It's a great one to show them. This one has a lot more of those fruity characteristics that you didn't get in their standard. And it just brings out a lot more of those kind of brighter oak spice notes up front. It's always fun to check out these kind of limited releases from distilleries because, sometimes you're like, is it worth the hype? Are these things it's just like, oh, there's just, since it's only released one time of year, that it's so important and high praised by people, or is it actually really good? And in this case, at least in my opinion, again, as I mentioned before, I am biased when it comes to Michter's. I think this is a great example of what toasted barrel can do when it's done right. It's not just like, oh yeah, we put it in this barrel for a little bit because that's what people are doing now. Toasted's a really cool topic. But also, hey, let's actually make a whiskey that is going to be a contrast to our standard whiskey and give people a reason to look out for this every, couple years when we release the bourbon or the rye or the sour mash. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap up this episode of Sipping with Jeremy. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Don't forget to check out the links below for our full Michter's video if you haven't watched that yet. Also, a link to our website so you can see everything we carry. I will say this one is a little bit of a tease because I know by the time this video gets released, our allocation for the toasted barrel would have come and gone. But this is also, I do these videos for education as well, and it's just hoping that you all learned a little bit of something about toasted barrels, found this one interesting. Keep an eye out for Michter's. Again, they're one of my favorite distilleries. Their limited releases are always fun. I try to get my hands on as many as I can. And yeah, thanks for joining us, y'all. Have a great day, and don't forget to drink well.